Office Hours. Today is February 26th, and we have a fantastic guest here today, Ford Nichols. He has been with EdgeNode for many years now, helping build out the Graph protocol, and has been a core part of Subgraphs as well as the AMP push that has been going on for, well, 2 years now. Been working on AMP, and then for Subgraphs many years before that. So with Ford being here today, let's all give him a nice warm welcome. How are you doing today, Ford? How is your day going?
Hey, Marcus. Stoked to be on today. Good to chat with you here. My day's going well. It's been another busy morning over at EdgeNode, jamming on this AMP product and making cool data tools for y'all. Just what I love doing, though. So I'm enjoying it.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I've been more closely working with you in the past, I'd say 6 months than I ever have. We've always been abstracted away in our roles in the company, and seeing how you work, seeing the effort you've been putting in to the technology, and then also the communication of the technology has been really, really impressive. So I'm just really happy to be working alongside you as you've been pushing hard on this. Before we get into your background and more into AMP, I want to back up and just share announcements. The House of Web3. If anyone here has not been to the House of Web3 just yet in the Presidio in San Francisco, please go ahead and check it out. It has been rebranded to The House. And so go ahead and check out The House in San Francisco. It is a beautiful co-working space and really worth the effort to get there. Ford, have you been there to The House yet? I remember sitting down there for the first time, being absolutely floored of the beauty and the location. Curious if you've made it out there just yet.
Yeah, of course, many times. And I have to say, every single time I go, I have to pinch myself that I'm able to be in such a beautiful location, working with alongside a bunch of smart people. So it's been pretty cool to expand the scope of that place a bit, to include more of the San Francisco tech outside of just blockchain. So we've had a lot of AI focused sessions there recently, and as we all know, that's been some very interesting conversations and taken off a bit.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit. I have my thoughts. I'm sure you have yours about AI. But before we get into that, let's back up a little bit. And for the sake of the audience, if you could introduce yourself and how you got into computer science, and then eventually how you got into the world of the Graph protocol and EdgeNode.
Yeah, sure. Let's go on a little journey through
Yeah.
history here. So let's see. Let's start with like my entry point into computer science. So I actually studied mechanical engineering at undergrad. I went to Tufts University and studied mechanical engineering there. I thought that I would end up going into automobile design and construction.
No way.
As like a teenager, I was really into cars.
Oh, that's cool.
And generally, I've always been into the intersection between design and interfaces and technology. Um, and I quickly realized there's maybe like a handful of people in the US that actually end up leading design for cars. And it was a hard thing to get into. But my focus and shift and interest shift over time. So I think it was, let's see, when was I really jumping into computer science stuff? I was doing some pretty deep MATLAB stuff in college, modeling dynamic systems, and I just really enjoyed the computer side of it and the modeling algorithms and building out those models. There was also like a class. I remember this moment. So there's this technology, this tool called LabVIEW, which is used for managing sensors and lab instruments for doing like mechanical tests and systems tests in the mechanical engineering world. And I built a tank video game on LabVIEW with some sensor controllers to control the tanks. And I just remember getting way too into it and being up all night trying to figure out how to make explosions look realistic on the LabVIEW screen. And yeah, the day after that, I realized how much fun that was and how much you can experiment with software and move fast and be creative. And so I think that was maybe like one of the earlier stages in my journey. There are many other stages, but eventually I dove deep into data systems, and coming out of college, ended up working on a data science and data analytics team
Hmm.
in the advertising world. And from there, just dove pretty quickly into wanting to build the systems myself, and improve the systems. So got into data engineering, and that was maybe 12 years ago now. Yeah.
Okay, so 12 years data engineering. Before that, engineering in the direction of mechanical engineering and automobiles. Very, very cool with that. I didn't know that factoid about you. Always having the mind of an engineer and now working with systems. What was it like first seeing blockchain and then understanding that from a distance and then diving into that? What was that transfer going from mechanical to software to then the subset of software that is blockchain? What was that like?
Yeah, that was a very exciting time for me. That was 8 years ago now, 8.5 years ago. I had been working with mostly advertising agencies and marketing teams, building out data platforms for them. So pretty high volume of data, some interesting problems. But I had like a first row seat to the silos of data, the amount of tracking that we have following us around everywhere we go on the internet these days. And I had strong conviction that I wanted to build more open data systems, that allowed more democratization of data, equal access to data, and was less focused on powering surveillance tools to monitor everything we do, and reducing privacy across the internet. And so when I started talking to a few friends about what they were doing in this space, and started diving in, I was immediately pretty excited about the potential of this public, accessible database, and then our indexing tooling on top of that, really supporting some of those goals that I had in philosophy around open data and democratizing data and building generalized data systems that everyone could have access to. And so I just started drinking from the fire hose of learning about Ethereum, blockchain. I was also learning Rust at the time. It was an exciting time for me with a lot of learning and new things. And it was an exciting time for the space in blockchain in 2018, 2019 into 2020. A lot going, a lot of cool, creative and intelligent people experimenting with technology. So, yeah.
Yeah, it really feels like entering this space, finding creative and intelligent people is almost a that's just what happens. You go to any event, you talk to anyone who's been in this space for more than a year or two. Back in 20, I think I started paying attention to this world in 2019 and really dove in 2020. Anyone I met has been fascinating in terms of their background and motivation and linked by a ethical belief in the way the internet could be. And I was really impressed by that. How do you feel now that you have gotten so deep into the blockchain world? You're with Edge and Node. You worked as a core developer, working on Subgraphs for years. The journey has been an incredible arc where right now we're seeing proliferation of AI. And how is that in context with your understanding of data at large, where it feels like right now I'm seeing so much happening in terms of data aggregation by these models and then also blockchain. And there's this interesting in between that we're in. Do you have any comments and feelings really about where we're at right now?
Like, talk about exciting times. Like, we're in another exciting time right now, and we're in a 0 to 1 moment of this AI technology and LLMs. Really, I know they're very much affecting my workflows and our teams at Edge and Node. They have a lot of power, which brings some dangers and some huge potential for value as well. So all of a sudden, as an individual, you can do things that used to be reserved for larger teams. And that gets back to like my desire for democratization of software and access by many people. So I think we can all build the tools that we might want personally moving forward. We also have this proliferation of agents, and there was already a massive proliferation of data on the internet that was frankly hard to keep up with even for the largest organizations. And it's going to just expand faster now, but we have the tools to manage it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a wild world we're entering, but it's an exciting one.
It is. It does feel like another meta where right now we're seeing blockchain rails being pushed to data and speed limits with chains like Solana, and then we're seeing the scalability of compute be pushed to limits with these data centers that we've just never seen before in our entire human history. You've been working on AMP, and I think that brings it to a nice little, full circle moment where I know a little bit about AMP. You know a little bit about AMP, but I feel like the tech that you've been working on is well positioned to handle a lot of data coming from a lot of different places all at once. And I wanted to see if, for any listener out there who doesn't understand AMP, how would you explain AMP in regards to being able to have a new, modern data architecture, really new way of looking at data in regards to blockchain, AI? Where does AMP fit?
Well, like one of the beauties and the tricky things about summing up AMP in a few words is it has a lot of amazing ways it can be used. And so maybe that's the top of line thing is the flexibility of getting blockchain data in and getting it out to other places. So instead of kind of taking off the shelf systems and trying to add on blockchain concepts, reorgs, decoding of data, the APIs that are needed for that, and fitting those in and plumbing them around existing databases, we built that into the core. So the query engine itself has concepts of reorgs and block numbers and blockchain time. The streaming interfaces are all built around handling reorgs for you or very explicitly. And with the data sizes and these high frequency chains just exploding, we're going to see more and more where chain data is getting up to the hundreds of terabytes, even entering petabytes. So we really needed an efficient way to store that data. So we really leaned into that in AMP, separating compute and storage, using things like Parquet files and object store for pretty efficient storage of large data and good compression. And so all these things that seem like small things all come together to make a system that's easy to use for blockchain use cases for large orgs or for individuals.
Yeah. This comes from years of experience working with subgraphs and the graph network. Could you compare and contrast for the viewer what a subgraph might be able to accomplish and what AMP might be able to accomplish?
Yeah, so subgraphs were a really powerful paradigm, especially with the explosion of DeFi and centralized applications, where developers of those really needed a very specific slice of data for their application. So subgraphs allow some nice interfaces for defining what data you need and how that data is shaped and how you want to query that using GraphQL in most cases. And then GraphNode handles a lot of the orchestration for you behind the scenes of pulling that data from different data sources, putting it into the database, structuring it, adding indexes, handling reorgs for you, etc. So there's amazing features in that. And especially for a front-end dev that maybe doesn't have a back-end dev to support them, subgraphs can simplify that process so a front-end dev can do it. But if you maybe don't know exactly what the shape of your data is going to be, or you need more diverse data use cases, or ad hoc analysis, or you want to do queries that are across multiple contracts, multiple applications, multiple protocols, subgraphs aren't a great use case for that. You kind of have to define the shape of your data and then do some processing, and then you have access to that to query it. With AMP, we have these blockchain extractors that are native to AMP. So you can very easily configure a data source for a blockchain, such as Ethereum or Solana or Arbitrum, and have that be indexed into AMP. And then you have access to the entire chain. So you have a blocks table, a transactions table, a logs table in most cases. And then you can query the whole thing. You can use SQL. You can use your LLM tools to help you develop SQL queries off of your natural language questions. And then you can process large amounts of that data efficiently, and then connect that into your other data stores if you have a more specific use case similar to a subgraph where you need it in a application-specific backend to power your app. But AMP really gives you that very flexible backbone that you can use directly to ask questions around the whole blockchain data set, or you can efficiently stream that data into a downstream data store for powering applications or powering agents or data science toolkits, machine learning. It's pretty flexible and really meant to be this flexible backbone that can power many systems and can be used in many contexts, from your laptop to like a large distributed deployment in the cloud.
Now, you hit on a word there repeatedly, and I want to double down on that: flexibility. Is there anything to compare it to that people might be able to understand at first glance? Because I've looked in the market and I'm trying to figure out where it goes. Maybe it's a few different things combined into what it could be. Does it have the flexibility of this and of that? I'm just curious if there's any good comparisons that you can make, because it's so unique. I'm trying to find a way to say it's similar to this, but it's not quite.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's got a lot of properties of a data lake. Other data lake technologies have similarities. But we also have this flourishing ecosystem of developer tools around it. So Rust streaming clients, Python streaming and batch clients, drivers that allow you to directly connect to it using dashboarding tools or directly connect to other databases. And so it does fit in a little bit of a niche that it's hard to say like one other tool that would compare directly to it. So it kind of combines some of the concepts of like a streaming platform like Confluent with a data lake, data warehouse like Delta Lake are two kind of examples. Neither of them are really an exact fit, but fit certain properties.
Cool. The decision to make it open source. Now let's back up before we talk about AMP and open source, but how do you feel about the open source community? Have you been involved in the past or contributed? And what was that decision process like to say AMP is going to be open source?
Yeah, I've contributed to many open source projects over the years, as well as benefited and depended on them. So I'm a huge proponent of the open source ecosystem and ensuring we can continue to make open source tools in the future. I believe that software can often be better if it's source available and you have more eyes on it. More people finding issues, more people breaking it, more people finding ways to use it better ways. If you hold on to something too tight and keep it precious, you don't learn enough. So I think there's really just a lot of value in putting things out there and learning from how people use it and respond to it.
Seeing how subgraphs became the indexing standard for the blockchain, and you were a big part of that. And now moving over to AMP, I can see that open source lineage carrying through. And with the aspirations of AMP proliferating and doing well in a brand new market, right now this market has traditional finance, it's got blockchain, it's got AI. What is the most interesting to you? What's the intersection to you personally that you say, oh, that is fascinating, and I'm curious where that goes in the next 3 to 5 years?
I mean, I think the easy answer there is the intersection of all those. And so you laid that up for me, I guess. But,
it's a fair choice.
right, you see these traditional finance starting to leverage things like stablecoins pretty heavily in taking properties from DeFi. And then you see the proliferation of software, the cheapening of software from LLMs and coding agents. You can easily see these things coming together into a more efficient financial ecosystem for us all, and hopefully more transparency and openness as well. I guess that touches on another thing for around the open source kind of concept, which is that we really want people to trust the data and follow the properties of kind of trustless trust, like blockchains. So being able to read the source code and see exactly how we did things and check that and make sure it matches with your expectations and invariance is pretty important. And then on top of that, we've also been working on some verifiability tooling to be able to prove that the data that you get into AMP is representative of the canonical blockchain for that network and is really the exact data. You're not missing any transactions. You're not missing any logs. And we can prove that through the proofs using the blockchain hashes and Merkle proofs, or depending on which chain it is. So that's pretty exciting stuff we're working on in AMP as well.
Let me double click on that. I'm talking with, and I know you're talking with, and a lot of blockchain companies are coming face to face with the big C word, compliance, and verifiability is a part of that. I'd say 2 years ago, that was a twinkle in the eye. I didn't have any idea about the importance of compliance in regards to the traditional finance world, as blockchain and DeFi was very much a movement of move fast and move finances on these brand new rails, and compliance was an afterthought. Now, compliance being a first-class citizen. What was that process like for you individually as someone who's been working with subgraphs and now shifting to AMP, about the understanding that from chain to query, as much as possible, having that data be verifiable and compliant? What has that journey been like for you to really get on board with that and then to actually program towards that?
Yeah, so I've it's been an important problem for me personally within the work context for many years now. So I was some kind of context on the Graph network. So I was working on GraphNode and subgraphs, but when we launched the protocol, we have this system called arbitration for subgraphs. So that's like a human in the loop arbitration process for identifying issues on the network with data, with indexers' behavior. And so a big part of that was trying to identify, in certain cases where a user or a participant in the system had questions about data that an indexer had, I was actually doing some of those investigations and supporting them to try to figure out, did that indexer have the correct data that matches what's on chain? Did they process that data correctly and deterministically using GraphNode? Did they do anything weird there that might have ended up with corrupted data or downstream giving incorrect data to the user? And so in order to do that, I was doing pretty deep investigations in GraphNode, in the blockchain data itself, and trying to trace back like why one indexer had data that was different from another. And it's a time-consuming process. I mean, I kind of enjoy doing that kind of investigative work, but doing it over and over again and scaling that doesn't really scale if we are thinking about maybe thousands of those kind of discrepancies or millions of users. And so that was like a time-consuming thing. And now if we can use an algorithm to help us with that and use math to prove that at least the data that came in to GraphNode or to the data store that you're concerned with is correct compared to the blockchain, that can save a huge amount of hours and improve trust in the system. And then the other thing I learned from that there was a clear pattern that emerged. A lot of the time that we had data discrepancies, it was down to something that came from the RPC endpoint that we relied on. So either a node that we were running or a provider maybe missed a log when they sent us back a block of logs, or missed a transaction. And then of course that leads to the data being different. And so it seems to me, like anecdotally from all these patterns, that if we could reduce just that raw data issue of the logs missing or transactions missing, we could save huge amounts of time and increase trust in the data immensely. So yeah, from my perspective, this is like a hugely valuable tool even for us internally.
Yeah, with AMP verification being in the stack it feels like an unlock that answers a pain point directly to you personally, where, and that's, I know builders like to build to solve their pain points, and that must be satisfying to see that out there. I have a question for you in regards to your experience. What's something that you wish traditional finance would know upon coming to the blockchain? Is there something that you wish they would know ahead of time, or get really educate themselves as quickly as possible? There's a lot to know. There's a lot to potentially be overwhelmed by. What's something that you think that they should take a look at early on in their journey into blockchain?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a hard one. I would say, talking to a lot of people from traditional finance, they already have a lot of the skill set and knowledge that's uh, important for understanding blockchain data, especially when it comes to finance and DeFi data. But I would say there's just a lot of intricacies in how data is encoded on the blockchain and how you can pull that out and find value there and turn that into human readable data. That for data analytics teams, I think that's an important thing to understand. And for like higher level business teams, I think like especially in coming from traditional clearinghouses and monitoring and compliance, I think like the big bottom line that I'm seeing is efficiency improvements.
Mhm.
When you're doing cross-border transfers, where you're doing cross-regional compliance work, when you can instantly settle on chain, the time and efficiency improvements, I think, can be massive across a global organization. So, being able to better define how that improves the system and redesign systems with that in mind, I think is going to be a huge unlock for some of these larger traditional institutions.
Cool. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think I got a good question here for you. The current meta being focused on this intersection of AI, TradFi, blockchain. What are we missing? Is there something that we're missing as an industry that you think we should be looking at more closely? You've been looking at finance and blockchain and these worlds for a while. Is there something that you're like, man, we're maybe not us at Edge and Node, but we as an entire industry should be potentially paying more attention to?
Like in the blockchain industry?
Yeah, blockchain industry and maybe tech at large. You could even go bigger than that. If there's anything that you think that right now in this transient moment where we're going from one large push into another large push, and there's a lot of things potentially being missed along the way, what do you think we could be doing a better job of in this industry?
Oh yeah, that's a good hard one. Thank you. I mean, I think like some of these fears that I have in moments where technology is progressing very, very quickly and becoming very powerful is just making sure we take care of ourselves in that process.
Yeah.
I see people getting burnt out using AI tools, and it makes sense. It's very easy to be always on with them. I see a lot of potential for reduced privacy and safety on the internet with the ubiquity of a lot of these tools and the power of them. So yeah, I would just hope that we can all maintain our ethics and continue to build tools that improve society and make our lives better. Um,
Yeah.
and always keep that in mind, which is really hard sometimes.
Yeah, build fast and break things sometimes doesn't line up with ethics, unfortunately. And it is the Wild West in a way that I've never seen it before. I thought blockchain was crazy. Throw in a model that consumes 1 million tokens every other minute, and you're yeah, it's a whole different Wild West. And so I can absolutely agree with that. Let's flip that question a little bit. And what are we doing right as an industry? What's something that you think is like thumbs up? This is on the right path.
I think it's been very interesting and positive to see the blockchain crypto industry mature the last couple of years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
like in some ways that might not be the thing everyone wants to see, but I do think it's like a healthy progression, and
Yeah.
we can lean into that and like learn from existing systems and not redesign everything ourselves.
Yep. I feel like there was inevitably going to be a tipping point. I was lucky enough to see this industry proliferate and a strong Web3 vision that people were building things that had never been seen before and doing things never been done before. And that's a wonderful thing. And also, when things have never been seen and never been done, the chances of it being understood is smaller and smaller. And that, I feel, was a experimental age and a wonderful age. And I feel now we're getting into this PMF that things that work are going to continue. And it feels like this is a healthy maturing. I totally agree with that. So for you, this next chapter is AMP. It's going to be very much AMP, AMP, AMP. What are you the most excited for about AMP? And as it's in the market, as it's getting out there into people's hands, what are you the most excited for?
Oh man, well, I'm excited to play with it myself. I've been having fun using it. Coming from like data science and data analytics world, like I'm really enjoying diving back into that. And I think that maybe touches on a more general theme, which is this kind of converging of two worlds that I feel we have with AMP, where we've taken some of these well-designed and well-loved technologies from the more traditional modern data world. So I'm really thinking of things like Apache Arrow, in-memory data format, which is awesome, and data fusion, and the Parquet file format, and a lot of the concepts of data lakes, and converging that with the blockchain world, and things like verifiability and trust and trustless trust, and simplifying all that, bringing it together. I think both sides of those worlds are going to have some exciting things to learn from that. Like I can't wait for a lot of the data blockchain people to start playing around with Arrow, and see how powerful it is on your local machine. And the same with the other way around, like traditional data people being able to link blockchain data systems with their existing workflows, with their Python notebooks, with their data science toolkit. Just drop it in and start going with the workflows that you're used to. So yeah, like both sides of that bidirectional kind of relationship there, I think is really exciting.
It is. I've been seeing how the solutions provided by AMP go directly to the pain points that the Graph Network and the Graph and Edge and Node has been trying to solve with data, and the flexibility, the power, the speed. It just feels really, really cool. So I'm happy for you to be able to build something that solves your own personal pain points, as well as the industries at large. And so continue building. I'm really happy for you and the team. Is there anything that you, speaking directly to any developer watching, would like to say directly to any developer that might want to try out AMP and understand AMP a little bit better before we sign off?
It's easy to run on your machine. Check it out. It's just a single binary to go to ampup.sh. And I'd love to hear from you guys if you're trying it, feedback, comments. Just collaborating with the community is really valuable to me. So don't be a stranger.
Love it. Don't be a stranger. Ford, thank you so much for your time. And everyone who's watching, thank you so much for attending another Graph Builders Office Hours. I'll be back here next week with another episode. And that's it. Ford, if you could stay on the line, I'm going to close off the stream and we'll talk off the stream. Take care, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, Marcus.